Hi everybody, welcome back to the channel. We are here. It is the next day. Yesterday when I was filming, I was hoping to get my salsa done. So that did not happen. So today we are here. We are going to start the salsa making process. My husband and I did have to take a trip into town to pick something up tonight that was getting winterized for the winter. So we did go get that, which cut into my salsa making time. Right now, the time is 6:11. We typically go to bed around 8 o'clock. So my hope for tonight is I'm going to get all the tomatoes washed, cored, and cut. I'm also going to get the onions cut and the peppers cut. That way tomorrow when I'm done with work, I can come home, throw everything in the pan, and start that simmering process, get it in the jars and start processing. So this is going to be a 2-day video this go around, but hopefully by the end of it, you will learn how I make my salsa and maybe you'll make it the same way. So I'm just going to go ahead and start washing my tomatoes. I always wash my vegetables with cold water. That is just how I was taught. And these tomatoes do need to get used up soon, which is why I'm getting them ready for salsa. We've got a lot of tomatoes with spots on them. This tomato here actually is starting to get soft. So I will be cutting some pieces off. But it is what it is. We were busy. We weren't able to get everything done like I was hoping. And we will get it done now. This tomato definitely has seen its better days, but we're going to cut the bad stuff off and keep using it. Sorry for the dogs in the background. When the cats come upstairs, the dogs go a-running. And usually their running involves barking too. All right, everybody, so we got all of the tomatoes washed. We are now going to core them and dice them. I do have my trash can on the floor for the cores. Unfortunately, I have nobody to feed them to, like chickens or animals. So how I core a tomato is I just go around the center, take out the core, toss it. I think what I'm going to do is core them all, take off all the bad spots, and then go back and dice it so my cutting board doesn't get so dirty. And if there's any cracks like this, I also go around them as well. I do have a nifty little, I think it's technically a strawberry corer. And I have used it for tomatoes, but some of these tomatoes are extra ripe. And I'm afraid that that is just going to squash them. And then if there are any tomatoes that do have kind of the big seams on the bottom, I will do very shallow around that, just because occasionally I have found some bad spots right underneath there. So I take that out. And if you actually look, this hole right here is all the way through. There's actually a bad spot still in the tomato, so I will make sure I cut that out. So we got all of the tomatoes cored. We are now going to dice them. I'm just going to put them in this bowl here. I do have the bowl sitting on a scale. So for the recipe for one batch, I need 6 pounds of tomatoes. So how I process the tomatoes for salsa is I just cut them in dices. And I try not to do giant ones, but I also try not to do teeny tiny ones because they will cook down. The other thing is the recipe that I use says take the peels off. I don't ever take the peels off. That is just my preference. I don't mind the peels in my salsa. I don't mind the seeds in my salsa. It is fine by me. And if you look at these tomatoes are gorgeous. They definitely are a juicy tomato, but they have so much meat to them. I am so happy with the plants that my friend gave me this year. Don't get me wrong, I've been happy with the plants she's given me every year. But last year I mainly had Romas and cherry tomatoes. And these big slicers, they're so good. So that one tomato gave me 12.4 ounces. We officially hit 1 pound. 5 more to go. All right, so we have just a little over 6 pounds of tomatoes that we cut. I initially measured out 12 pounds of tomatoes to cut, but it seems like because there were so many bad spots, it took a lot of the weight away. Let's keep on working. I'm going to cut peppers and onions next. All right, so I'm just going to wipe this off a little bit before I put my peppers, onions, and possibly garlic. My recipe here calls for 6 pounds of fresh tomatoes, half a cup of apple cider vinegar, distilled vinegar, and this pouch. I do cheat. I use Mrs. Wage's Mild Salsa. The ingredients are dehydrated vegetables, which include onion, bell pepper, chili pepper, red bell pepper, garlic. It includes salt and spices, including paprika. So this is no artificial flavors or colors. So this is a seasoning pouch that I do trust. But I always kind of zhuzh it up and add some more stuff to it. So I'm going to do this large white onion. And honestly, if I was worried about the size of everything, I would use my dicer. But that is one thing that I have to clean then, on top of what I already have dirty. So and I am just gonna throw the onions right in here with the tomatoes, because that way if I decide I don't want to start the full canning process tonight, it'll all be in there, and I can take this one bowl, dump it in, stir it up with that, and done. And then I'll have a second bowl, same thing, stir it up and done. Oh, I hit a rogue onion. Now this recipe, if you want to call it, that I'm doing is just something that I have made up throughout the years. My sister and I, growing up, we tried to can salsa from scratch one year. And when I say from scratch, I mean from scratch. There was no pouch. We had all of the peppers, all of the everything. And the problem was that in order to thicken it, you needed cornstarch. And we went to thicken it with our cornstarch, and it wouldn't thicken. So we added more cornstarch, and then it got so thick that it was like jelly. We'll be doing all the peppers. And since they're so small, I do think I'm going to get out my chopper. We're going to do them in big dices, and that is simply because my little dicer piece broke for this. My husband manhandled it a little too hard. I watched this thing today, and I'm going to try it. They cut the peppers like this. I've never done this before. And then they cut the bottom and threw this away. I have always cut, I've always cut my peppers fully in half and then took the seeds out. Alright, so this, if you can see it, is a purple pepper from my garden, a lilac pepper. It is the only lilac pepper I got off of the plant. There is no more flowers on that plant. All of these peppers are sweet peppers. And like I said before, I don't really have a recipe to say I do this much, and this much. I really just add as much as I think is good. All right, this pepper here is a banana pepper. I know, kind of untraditional for salsa, but I have a bunch of peppers and I need to use them. So that's what they're getting used for. Last year I pickled banana peppers and they were so amazing. It was one of our favorite things. But this year I only got about 4 banana peppers. How do you pickle 4 banana peppers? Alright, this pepper here is a bell pepper. So the pepper trick definitely works better with bell peppers. Not so much the baby guys. I'm glad my husband convinced me to do salsa because some of these peppers are getting soft, and had we not used them, they would look like my vegetable tray, which I'm not going to show you because it's nasty. Okay, I think I'm going to call that good. I got about half of my chopper full of peppers. And there's one last thing I want to add to this bowl, and I did decide I'm not going to can tonight. I'm going to wait for tomorrow. One last thing is garlic. I did the cheaters method this time and got pre-peeled garlic. If it'll let me open it here. I got my little cheese monster here, if you can see her nose there. When I opened up the nasty vegetable tray, there was still cheese in there also. And the cheese was good, but not the veggies. There was a few moldy pieces of cheese, so that's why she's here. She got some cheese. Her and her sister. Oh, that guy. Might not be able to, might just have to chop these by hand. This guy wiggled his way right on through. I might pull these back out and just try to chop them a little smaller by hand. So I probably grabbed about 6 or 7 cloves out of that bag of garlic. And I think that'll probably be good because the package itself has garlic in it as well. The seasoning packet, that is. All right, so I am just going to squish the lid on this bowl. And this one bowl is ready for salsa. So I'm going to stick this in the fridge and I'm going to start chopping the rest of my tomatoes and see if I can scrounge up enough for 6 pounds and make a second batch of salsa ready to go in the fridge. All right, everybody. So I have 2 bowls ready for making salsa. All I have to do tomorrow is add in this packet. So to refresh what I had said before, 6 cups of fresh tomatoes. I also add in onions and peppers. That is just my preference, but you do not have to because this pouch does contain that. We would add half a cup of distilled vinegar, 5% acidity, or apple cider vinegar, and 1 pouch of this. What we're going to do is combine everything, bring it to a boil, and simmer for 10 minutes, and then you can serve it. Chill it and serve it if you want to. You can also pour it into a freezer-safe container and let it cool, and then freeze it for up to a year. Or you can can it, which is what I'm going to do. So we will go over that tomorrow. It is almost 8 o'clock. That is my bedtime. I get up at 3:30, so I go to bed early. This second batch of salsa with the only red peppers does have homegrown garlic from my garden. I got very little homegrown garlic this year because I planted in the spring. So I'm going to try planting in the fall. But for now, I'm going to wrap it up. I will see you guys tomorrow and we will get this salsa canned. All right, everybody, welcome back. It is the next day. We are going to get ready to cook and can the salsa today. So first thing, we are going to put everything in this bowl into my pot. All right, I got everything in the pot. Next thing I'm going to do is add the Mrs. Wage's Mild Salsa kit. Okay, so we are going to get this started so we can start processing. It does say to bring this to a boil and then simmer for 10 minutes. So once I get this boiling, we will simmer it for 10 minutes. All right, so while this is starting to warm up, why don't we go get the canner ready? All right, so I have my water bath canner here. I am going to fill it up. You can see inside to just above my rack. This canner has seen its better days. The rack is pretty much stuck in there, which is fine. So we'll get this filled up with water. All right, so we have this filled to about the level of the rack in there. And I'm going to show you how I like to do my canning so it keeps most of the heat out of the house. So let's move outside with this. All right, so a few years ago, my husband and I got a propane burner, and that is what I use for all of my canning now when I need a water bath can. All right, as for jars, I bought a new package of jars because I didn't have any pints. And I'm just going to rinse them and then put them in the oven. And I'm going to do 7 because that's what my canner outside can hold. All right, everybody. So we are just waiting for this salsa to come to a boil. And then we will simmer it for 10 minutes. I can already smell it and it already smells good. I just wanted to kind of recap with you guys why I was putting the jars in the oven. So when I water bath can outside, I don't preheat my jars in the water outside. So I need a way to warm up the jars so that when I put them from the outside world to the canner outside, it will not break my jars. So to do that, I have been putting them in the oven at 200 degrees, letting them warm up. I pull them out with my jar tongs and I fill them up with my hot liquid and then carry them from here out there, put them in, and it's always worked great for me. When I don't preheat the jars in the oven, that's when I tend to have jars that break. So this is why I do that. It is a technique I learned from my dad years and years ago, and so far it has not proven me wrong. So we're just going to keep on waiting here, wait for this salsa to start boiling, and then we will get started. All right, guys, let's go check on the water out here. It is almost boiling. We have about 6 minutes left before we need to start canning. All right, everybody, let's start canning. So you're going to pull your hot jar out of the oven. I add one teaspoon of canning salt to my jars. Then we're going to fill it full with salsa. And then you're going to wipe your rim. Get your lid out. Get your ring out. And then tighten it to fingertip tightness. And then you're going to repeat. Okay, so our first batch of salsa has been water bath canning for 40 minutes. So we are going to pull these jars out and we are going to replace it with 7 more. And we will can those for 40 minutes as well. I don't know if you can hear the jars sealing, but they are sealing. All right, and we will reset our timer for 40 minutes. Shut that so the animals don't get out. All right, so once you get your salsa inside, you're gonna put it onto a towel. You never want to put it straight onto your counter because the cold counter will probably crack the hot jars, and we just leave them alone for 12 to 24 hours. So here's our first batch. We have 7 more in the canner, and then we have this much left in our pot, which I am probably just going to put in a bowl in the refrigerator, and my husband and I will enjoy. So stick around. We will do one more check-in before we wrap up this video. Tomorrow morning when I leave for work, I'm going to check all those jars and see if they sealed for us. And hopefully we have 14 jars of salsa ready for the pantry shelf. All right, everybody. So we have about this much salsa left that we didn't can. My jars are sealing in the background. So I'm going to give it a taste test for you. This is good. It tastes like almost like a jar you would get from the store, like a Tostitos or a Pace. This is good salsa. All right, everybody, I did check my jars and they all sealed and are sitting on my shelf. I realized after opening a jar that I did not need to add salt to the salsa. Typically in my tomato products, I add salt and I was just on autopilot. And I now remember that salsa is something I never add salt to. So I'm going to have to find a way to utilize the salsa rather than eating it as salsa because it is very salty, but it will not go to waste at our house. The other thing I realized is I forgot to add vinegar to the recipe. Typically tomatoes are acidy enough that they do not necessarily need vinegar, but it doesn't hurt to add it to ensure that they are at the right acidity level. So I'm going to make sure I keep an eye on this product and make sure it smells good before we eat it. Thank you everybody for following along with this video and watching till the end. Hopefully you enjoyed it. Please like it if you liked it. Give it a thumbs up. Send it to your friends. Follow my page, and hopefully we can keep making more videos. Until next time, I will add a few videos on the side here for you to watch, and hopefully you have a good day.